Welcome back to Marvel Maniac, an MCU after show. This is your host, Eric Cicada, aka Mr. Honest. This week, we got a spooky episode for you. I'm not going to lie, this is the second time I said that. And I didn't want to bring that up, that I had to restart recording, but I'm doing it because I want it to be perfect. And because you guys wouldn't have heard me say anything if I didn't fix it. Back to what we're here for today, and that is we're going to be covering Werewolf by Night. Something I haven't touched on the podcast except for my Phase 4 review. It's a very interesting tale, and I brought one of my very interesting best BFF besties, Dustin Baker, back for this episode. Dusty, how you doing?
Hey, Mr. Honest, it's a pleasure to be here.
It's a pleasure to have you. So you're a pretty big fan of this Werewolf by Night thing, huh?
Yeah, I'd say that I am. I think when it came out in 2022...
Right.
It was probably, unless I'm misremembering, it was probably my favorite thing that Marvel came out with that year. I think I remember having a little bit of Phase 4 fatigue and being like, none of this is really landing with me. But Werewolf by Night was just like lightning in a bottle. I really like it.
That makes me happy, and it also drives me insane that it's been 2 years since its release this year.
Isn't that crazy? I also thought it came out last year when I was going to rewatch it. It was like a 2022 marking. I was like, oh my God.
So I know you loved it. I remember you talking about it. I remember you saying you should get back into the podcast and cover it, and I couldn't do it. It was one of my it might have been my fall off moment that year. And for anyone who doesn't know, I took some time off for mental health reasons, which anyone and everyone should do. Don't be ashamed of having any mental health issue. Everyone has issues, and you are a powerful human, and you can get over this. I'm not talking to you, Dusty. You're weak. No, I'm just kidding. I don't know why I said that. You're one of the strongest, biggest hearted people I know. It was a bad joke, hence why do humor when I'm just funny. Okay, this has been the most filibustering opening 2 minutes of any podcast I've ever made. And I'm keeping it in. Dusty, do you have anything to say about any of this?
I think you have a tendency to maybe do some filibustering, but that's part of the charm. You're the Marvel maniac, and everything that comes with it.
Yeah, sometimes you'll get
excited. I mean, it's exciting to talk about this one. There isn't a lot of depth to it in a way where it's not like we're going to have a lot to discuss in terms of how it connected to this, and this. I know there's a lot of potential setting up that it's doing, but we don't know exactly what Marvel wants to do with the with this. So I'll just start at the beginning.
Right.
I'll just say right off the bat, I love the intro. Literally the Marvel opening. The fact that it's in black and white is really cool.
So glad you brought that up.
And the title card that actually says Werewolf by Night is, kind of paying homage to the old Universal movie monsters, where it's it looks like a little film, square.
Absolutely. And
it's such a cool way to dip your toe into what you're about to get into, not knowing maybe what it is. And then you put that on. I think it immediately says, hey, buckle up. This is the type of thing that this is.
And they made the song spooky for when they were showing the title, the pictures, the normal thing they put in MCU movies. They did a spooky version. I love that.
Cool.
Yeah.
I wish they would do that for every show that they do, because every time they do it to highlight the story that they're telling, when Loki does the green and gold, it's so cool. It just adds such a little flavor to it that I know it's probably easier said than done to do that for every potential series, but it's so cool. It's such a cool thing. And I do love the spooky twist on the classic Avengers thing.
And I kind of like at the beginning of the episode, before we get anything, we get kind of a narrated opening to kind of introduce you into another side of the MCU. And they even show, they're shadowed out figures of the Avengers, the original 6, and then it goes below ground. And what about what lies beneath? And it's kind of cool. It's taking your hand. And I like how they pay homage to the Avengers, even though it's going to be any bit different than the Avengers. They kind of get us ready for that in the first little monologue that they have. And by the way, I watched this in color. I did watch it in black and white when it came out. It was the only option. We can talk about some of the differences there in a bit. But Dustin, have you definitively just always watched it in black and white?
Well, when you mentioned doing this episode, I knew I was going to revisit watching it, and I had known that they came out with the color version. I tried to watch the color version. I put it on, and it just didn't feel like it lost a lot of the charm that I really like about the original shooting.
Right.
And you know what? While we're talking about it, though, because you mentioned how the music is like right off the bat very cool and like, hey, the classic Avengers theme, but spooky. I think we can just get into it because I was looking it up.
Let's get into it. Jump all over the place.
The director of this special presentation, he's like a famous movie composer. Like he makes like music for so many movies, so many video games. Like, he's huge. Because when I was watching it, I'm like, whoever directed this is incredible. They clearly have a love of like old movies and things like that. So when I looked it up, he's a huge composer. That's normally what he does. He's pretty much only directed this, and outside of that, he only makes music for everything. He's made a lot of music for, yes, I can tell you his name. He's made a lot of music for Disney stuff too. His name is Michael. I'm probably gonna say his last name wrong. Giacchino. Michael Giacchino.
Sounds like a really good cappuccino.
Yeah, I'll take the Michael Giacchino. He's also like acted in some stuff because I saw him having some acting credits come up. But I do feel like a big part of what makes this so unique is that he's probably bringing in his music compositioning skills and he's able to direct. And it just makes such a cool such a cool combination.
There's nothing like Marvel does this, okay, where they'll have the best soundtrack. And it's at the best moments because of the soundtrack, and it elevates the movie, and that's what soundtracks are meant to do, obviously. You could take the sound out of, like, movies, and you see them with no sound, and they're, like, not scary. The score is just blends into the plot perfectly, and like we said, that scary beginning thing was fun. I'm circling on topics. Do you have any, like, instant moments that you think of when you think of Werewolf by Night?
Like before revisiting it?
I guess I'd say before revisiting it, it will be probably more of a fresh.
I feel like the things that I remember most about it before the rewatch is I really like the two leads. It's like Gael Garcia
Jack
and then Laura Donnelly, Elsa,
right.
I've seen her in other stuff, and I always like her.
She looks a lot like Kristen Ritter, and I never thought that until I saw it in color. Like so much.
That's a good point, actually. She could be like her sister. And then I really like Gael Garcia, who plays Jax, the Werewolf by Night. He's been in various things, like movies. I know he had a big party in Coco and stuff like that.
I thought he was fantastic.
And I remember, like, they both bring so much charisma right away that I remember liking them a lot. I remember liking the Man Thing. And
that's what I think of. That's what I think of before I rewatched it was the Man Thing.
I like him, and I like how they have a friendship, and like it kind of subverts what you think the movie's going to be. It's like he's actually there to save this monster because it's just misunderstood. He's not like an evil guy.
How endearing is that, too?
It's so cool. It's such a cool little. It automatically makes you like Jack, because right off the bat, anyone who sympathizes with animals and monsters, it's like, okay, I like this guy.
And some of these other guys that are there to, actually be a part of this hunt, they're pretty vicious and brutal. And we get the two characters walk away. The three characters that walk away from this are the ones that are deemed the evil monsters and the monster supporters, but they're the ones who walk away from the fight in the end, which I think is kind of cool.
Yeah, I agree.
Do you watch a lot of horror movies?
I do. I mean, especially around this time of the year, I do like to watch like Halloween things.
So you probably, like you said, you love the black and white homage. Like it's an homage to the classic horror films. They did the technique where they added the smallest bit of color until the end, where obviously I'm jumping all over the place. It's full color, but that was not present in the colored version. Obviously, the moment where everything turns to color, it is beautiful. It is still kind of a really nicely shot scene, but the magic I remember of the black and white turning to color with the Wizard of Oz song "Somewhere Over the Rainbow," that was pretty sick. And that's one thing that you're gonna really miss in the colored version.
Yeah, it seems like such a strange thing to even release a non-black and white version when I feel like so much of the visual storytelling is in black and white. And like, I'll bring up an example. The transformation scene, when it starts, you're mostly seeing the reflections of a shadow on the wall. And like, I'm sorry, but in black and white, it stands out. It looks so unique. You have Ella like scared in the back of the cage, the reflection on her.
I see it as you speak it.
Works so much better in black and white than in color. You lose a lot of the flair for like what this, like, you know, the shadows against the white wall. Like, it just works so well. And then for you to mention the ending, leading into the color while the Wizard of Oz song plays, it's like, well, what's the point of any of that if you're watching this in color the whole time? Do you think? It kind of makes me mad that they did this, because it makes me just feel like they thought people are so stupid.
Gotta speak up for people. No, people are that stupid. I'm one of those people. Trust me, we're not stupid. We're just dumb sometimes. Like, we can't. Okay, I'm not gonna speak up for you, audience, but okay, just hear me out on this. I have never been able to completely get drawn into black and white media. I don't know why. My brain like looks up at the sky for half of it and I'm disconnected. I don't know why. I assume there's other people out there like that. Like, and to movie enthusiasts like you, Dustin, who went to, film school, that's probably a big insult in a sense, because the classics are where we draw from to make new classics. However, what do you think about that?
I mean, I think that's fair. I'm not going to be like, how dare you not watch black and white movies? It's like, hey, if you can't, pay attention to it if it's in black and white, like, okay, that's fine. And you are the exact reason why Disney did this then. And I'm happy that it exists for you and maybe others like you.
I enjoyed it so much.
I would argue that I bet that if there was something you truly cared about, but it was in black and white, you would break that mold. If I was like, hey, the next Spider-Man movie is going to be in black and white.
I'd be so disappointed though, dude. Of course I'd watch it, but I'd be really disappointed. Spider-Man Noir.
Watch the Werewolf by Night in black and white and see how cool it is. Does that not help you realize that maybe you're writing it off?
Yeah, I do know I'm writing it off. I do want to go back and watch classic movies. I want to get over that stigma. Ironically, today I took a step backward and I took the color experience. I really liked it still, and believe it or not, the colors really popped. I mean, the color of what's the girl's name again? Dang, I keep forgetting it. Ella, yeah. Elsa. Sorry. She's got this bright red jacket that really pops. So you get to see it at the end, but and I don't know why. I just am more in the moment with these characters. I see more of Jack walking into the party undercover, maybe because I've seen it before, but the fact that everyone's sharing their kill counts and stuff, and this is kind of a dark place. Our main character is even a part of this, but then we soon learn he's not there for the Bloodstone, which I thought that's got to be an earlier version of the Reality Stone. But I've come to realize I don't even think this takes place in the past like I thought. It just looks really black and white and cool. I don't know if you can give me some thoughts on this, but do you think this took place in the modern day or 100 years ago, MCU?
Oh, you know what? That's a good question. I don't think I've ever actually thought through. I've honestly just always assumed it was taking place around the same time that everything that we see happens.
Yeah, I don't know why.
To know one way or the other unless I miss a clue about when this takes place, but that's also kind of what is so cool about this, is that it really is just, it could be either or. It could be either or, and whatever they decide they want to do with it, they have the luxury of choosing. But as of right now, I do think this is happening concurrently with everything else in the MCU.
I agree. Absolutely. After I watched this, there was no indicator except the fact that no one holds a gun. Are you not allowed to kill monsters with guns? That's against the old ways, or I don't know, whatever she said.
The evil woman at the end, she has a gun that she's about to shoot Also with, and then the man thing. But it is kind of an old-timey looking gun. Also, the security people have like taser rods. So
yes, they remind me of the TVA sticks so much, and they didn't before.
Oh my God, Eric, I wrote that down. I said all of these security guards look like TVA agents. That's very funny because they have the same armor, and the fact that they're carrying those rods, it looks like the things that erase people.
Yeah.
I was cracking up. Wow, I'm so glad you said that because I was going to bring that up later.
I thought they were TVA sticks, and I thought they looked like them. And I remember what I was going to say. It was going to be an off-the-cuff joke. Every time I see the Salem 7 and Agatha All Along, I think they're like Dementors or Ring Wraiths, and I make comments
That's exactly what my partner said when we were watching that episode where they first introduced the Ring Wraiths. She's like, it's Dementors.
Really? And now for some reason, I know the reason you say it in that tone is because of Michael Scott. And he's like, go to prison with the Dementors.
Yeah, of course. It's ruined forever.
It really is, dude. That is how I say it too. Man, all right, back on topic.
Okay, I have some more things I could add. Going back, we'll kind of circle back to the beginning a little bit.
You can circle anywhere. Yeah, we haven't really been through it top to bottom. We've just been kind of picking moments and stuff. So go off, my friend.
Yeah, okay. Well, again, going from the intro being so cool, I love the narrator. I think it adds to like this kind of storybook quality to this where it's like we have a voice, an all-present voice that sets the stage for the night, and it's kind of like a spooky voice. I think that's really cool. I love how right off the bat they do such a good job of throwing you into this like unseen side of Marvel.
Yes.
And they set up the rules really quickly. They're like, hey, here's what's going on tonight. Here's the cast of characters. They're all so unique too. Like each person has their own look, their own weapon, their own vibe. You got like the David Bowie.
I was gonna say that. I was just gonna say there's a David Bowie one.
So memorable. Like you can't mix any of them up for the other person. They all have their unique traits.
I like the big guy with the axe.
10 minutes, it's already established. Like here's what's going on tonight. Here's all these characters. Here's their backstories. Like it's so good. They just really get you caught up to speed with what you need to know without it feeling heavy-handed either. I never felt like, oh, here's an exposition dump. It's like, no. This is so cool. It
gives the audience a lot of... It is well done. It gives the audience a lot of room to think and assume and make up their own conclusions.
Yeah. For each character, like, ooh, I wonder what he kills, stuff like that.
I think there's a lot of it's very intriguing that Elsa shows up, making herself a huge target because of who she is, the daughter of the guy who owned the Bloodstone, Ulysses Bloodstone, who we do know that that's not his actual name. Like he named himself after Bloodstone. I watched a Screen Crush episode from 2 years ago before this to see if they could give me any more knowledge. You were talking a little bit before about the black and white, and I didn't know we were going to be comparing and contrasting so much, but I think it's kind of interesting. So let's talk about the transformation scene of him turning into a werewolf is one of the also memorable moments I have from first watching it. And where it shows her against the wall and like in the shadows. Is that what you're talking about? Like he's transforming in the shadow? Like on top of
they actually show his final form. They just show the reflections on the wall.
It's a little harder to even see, if you ask me. Like in the color version, it's there, but it probably does have it probably has more impact in black and white. And I'm wondering how much of planning they did to make this black and white. If it was like from the beginning of shooting they planned that, I don't know.
I think I'm not gonna pretend to know, so don't quote me on this.
Right, I know nothing either.
I'm pretty sure when you're filming something with the intention of being black and white, you do have to like light things and set things up in a very specific way to achieve the look that you're going for. So I do think that the black and white was the original intent, and then the color was easily added after the fact. Because like it's easier to go back and probably add color than it is to make black and white work because the shadows and the things that you would need to set up while filming can't really be changed as easily as it would be just going onto a program and being like, saturation up.
Yeah, and well, WandaVision is a good example of this because they have some black and white episodes to start the series, and there's the making of they put up for almost every single thing that they make now, in the making of you see and learn that in the black and white scenes, Vision, the red color on his face comes out horribly in black and white, so they painted Vision all blue for those episodes.
Exactly. See, it's stuff like that where you have to do a lot of prep work to make black and white work that I think, the color was definitely added after the fact.
I think a huge understatement so far in our podcast. This goes to show how much depth this show can go in a short time, and like introducing new things and aspects. Man-Thing is crazy. What's his name? Ted. I think his name is Ted, and he is like Incredible Hulk size. Like, where's he been hiding this whole time? You know what I mean? I mean, it's a very interesting villain slash turned hero, because you think they're going to fight this big monster, but he's just buddies with it, trying to get him out, which I kind of love. I love that there's a camaraderie between this creature. He gives me Groot vibes meets the Hulk, because Jack can understand everything he says, even though he's just like grunting,
Yeah. No, he's so cool. He reminds me of kind of like a hybrid between Swamp Thing, if you know who Swamp Thing is from like DC Comics, and then
not really.
Cthulhu, the Eldritch God with all the tentacles on his face, scary monster guy.
Yes,
he's definitely a little combination of the two.
Little Davy Jones from Pirates of the Caribbean in there.
Exactly. Yeah, he's so cool, and it's so easily lovable. Within like the brief moments we get him, I'm like, oh, this guy, like, I want to save him.
Lovable and terrifying. I mean, when he like takes Verussa, the older,
yeah, and, like,
okay,
brains her
that was nuts. In black and white, that was nuts. But in color, he has the specific color that comes out when he's using this magic. It's like almost like a very yellowish white, very light, like. It's specific. It's like a specific new type of power that we haven't seen in the MCU yet. Jeez, like I want to see more of him. You know what I mean? Like I might be jumping too far ahead by saying that, but you mentioned his name's Gael Garcia. How he is a great actor. I really do think that he, if it wasn't for him, I might not have been as invested. I totally bought the character. I forgot he was going to turn into a werewolf. Like, that's how good it was. And I accepted that. You know what I mean?
Right. So I think all the setup stuff is really good. And then we get into the hunting, which is fun. I like the little, like, maze area that they're in. I feel like we kind of focus from that point on to just, like, the two leads trapped in that room together for a bit. We kind of get to know them.
Exactly.
In like a small, like, intimate session of like, hey, here's what these two characters are up to.
Do you ship them?
These are, no, not yet.
No, not even a hint.
I mean, if they followed up with this and they got together, I wouldn't be surprised. But right now, I don't feel like this special presentation is really trying to set something like that up. I think it's mostly... What's that?
When he comes back to see her when he is the werewolf, he pounces kind of on top of her. But as we know, he like sniffed her a bunch, which is really weird. Right. But he sniffed her a bunch before just to get her.
Well, it's funny you say that's weird, but I love it because they're setting these like rules up for what it means to be a werewolf, and he's like, "Look, I don't want to kill you." And okay, I
love that. Your perspective makes me so happy.
It's not a romantic thing for me at this point because. One, there's not a lot of time in this movie to begin with. I don't think they want to set up like romantic stuff. Mm-hmm. Two, I think the main goal of like them being together alone for so long is to show who they are and also make you realize that this man who is capable of turning into this monster, this werewolf, he's actually a good guy. So anything that's going to happen when he turns into a werewolf isn't really what he wants to do, and he's trying to work on that. And so like he's right away, he's like, okay, look, I need to smell you and like get you in my brain so that when I am the monster, hopefully a part of me can hold back and not kill you. And it's not like,
it works.
Oh, let me be smelling up on you.
Yeah, I know. No, it was funny. I mean, it was funny. I thought of that for like a second, but I knew what he was doing. I want to compare Man-Thing to the Incredible Hulk in that, they're kind of completely different personalities stuck within a body. I think he even mentions it that he has a hard time remembering what he does when he's the werewolf. I'm pretty sure he says that. If he didn't, I'm sorry. I'm writing fan fiction here. But
I think he does too, and that's pretty typical, like werewolf lore. Like they do follow a lot of the rules, and I think that is one of them where they often don't remember the night, of them being a werewolf.
Well, like in a team up, I mean, another really cool thing about the Bloodstone is how it only affects what the Bloodstone defines as monsters. I find it so interesting that there's a new, basically, Infinity Stone in the mix here. I mean, like, this thing is powerful.
That's true.
In the monster world. And I thought it was...
paranormal stone.
Yeah, I thought it was the Reality Stone at first when I watched it a long time ago. And it was like a flashback to how the Reality Stone ended up where it did. But that wasn't it, and I'm happy that wasn't it, because not everything needs to be about Infinity Stones all the time. I do want more stories involving them, and like what else the stones are capable of. I think that's madly interesting.
Yeah, so, after they're trapped in that room for a bit, they get out only to pretty much get captured, and we have talked a lot about the transformation scene.
Yeah.
He kind of slaughters everyone in the room.
Insanely cool. I mean, kind of Wolverine.
Very cool. I love werewolf, like, moving stuff, too. Like, the way they move, like, kind of like an animal. All that always works for me.
Up on the wall, climbing all the walls and stuff, jumping out of the cage.
For some reason this time, too, and it's probably because I recently replayed Telltale's A Wolf Among Us, but when he transforms into the werewolf, he really reminds me of Big B from that game specifically, that I was like, hell yeah, this is so cool.
Dustin's always spoken very, very highly of this game, and if you don't know about, what was the studio?
Telltale. They did all the Walking Dead games.
Yeah, the Telltale games. They're out of business now, unfortunately, but they made these choose your own adventure games based off of like pop culture. They did Walking Dead was the biggest, Game of Thrones, and then The Wolf Among Us.
It was based off of a comic series called Fables.
Oh, cool.
It was like a one-off story that took place in the universe of Fables, but they called it The Wolf Among Us because it focused it on the big bad wolf.
Okay. Makes sense.
Yeah. But yeah, no, I mean, I feel like the movie kind of slowly gets to the end point there where our heroes escape, and the Elsa, who is the family, she's connected to the family. She is now the holder of the Bloodstone, right?
Yep, and she's also going to take over the house, it looks like. She told the butler to clean up.
The butler to clean up. It does seem like they've left the door open here for some connection. It was kind of sad when I was finishing this. I was like, man, I wish Marvel would have done one of these every year.
Well,
like a sequel. I know they have Agatha this year, which kind of feels like a Halloween.
I was just going to say that. No, there's no doubt in my mind Agatha is being put in the place it is for Halloween. They're even putting the last 2 episodes together next week. I thought, oh man, listen to our Agatha after shows. We got a feedback box too in our, I say this every episode, but we have a new feedback button in our description for all the episodes. All you got to do is hit it, share your email, and whatever message you want to send us. Obviously, mean things won't be replied to or said on the show, but whatever you send, at least for now, I can say it'll be on the show if you send like a decent comment. So hit up that feedback box. That was just a little reminder. Dustin, do you have anything else you'd like to talk about in the Werewolf by Night extravaganza?
I mean, I guess the only thing that's left is to speculate where this could be going. Like you said, Agatha is definitely in the Halloween placeholder this year.
Right.
I do feel like the reception to this was like pretty good, so I do think they know that they have something that people are interested in.
Yeah.
I know they have ideas for things that would connect to this, like
Midnight
the
Suns.
Inevitable Blade. Yes, but before we get to Midnight Suns, we need Blade, and we need
they canceled Blade though.
There was going to be that Black Knight movie too, which I know is also canceled. I don't think Blade's canceled. I think it's just like on the shelf, longer than they expected.
They took it off the fucking. Oh, sorry. They took it off. That line in Deadpool, I think, like, even the people at Marvel were like, you're right, there's only going to be one Blade. I think if they do it, I think they're going to bring back Wesley Snipes because of the reception. I think they will. I haven't seen the movies. Those are the only Marvel movies I haven't seen, I'm pretty sure.
I have a fondness for the first one because I was a kid, probably too young to see it, but I did. And it was really cool. But I was excited to see what the MCU would do with Thing. I was excited for Mahershala Ali, who's like one of the best actors alive, and I was excited because of Werewolf by Night in a way that I was like, okay, if they do Blade, it's not going to be Wesley Snipes' Blade, which those movies are very early 2000s, like action, bloody, like they have such a vibe to them and they're cool.
Marvel's going in that direction.
They are of those times that I was looking forward to seeing what Disney would do with Blade, especially keeping in mind what they just did with Werewolf by Night, where it's like, okay, maybe they're going to go with a more like classic monster version of Blade, which would be so cool.
Maybe they decided that for this saga, they were going to save some of the monster stuff for later. Maybe there was like a plan to do something like Monsterverse, Midnight Suns, some big collab, but it's the multiverse saga, so it sits kind of weird in there. And we're already going to be at the Battle World in like less than 2 years. So there's like not a lot of time for new stories to develop. But like I was saying this about the Scarlet Witch potential movie, that's something to look forward to after Secret Wars. Like, I want to see it before Secret Wars, obviously, but like, we can actually start looking forward to Marvel after that because we're getting closer. And when you realize that, we got a lot of great stuff coming in the next couple of years if they land it. And I think they're going to. It shows and tells a lot that they took Blade and put him aside for a bit because they knew it wouldn't go over well. I would rather have no Blade than another bad project, like bad Blade. We don't need that. So if they need to put it on the shelf for a while, like I'm cool with that. Sorry, I'm yapping your ear off right now.
No, you're not. You're good. I agree. I think that whatever they're going to do with this, like, I don't know,
supernatural side,
supernatural stuff with Marvel, I do think they'll hold off until after they finish this, Doctor Doom. Or it's either, I'm okay with it not being connected to everything else. If they just want to occasionally make a little thing that's more connected to the Werewolf by Night / supernatural stuff, I am more than okay with it just kind of being its own little
underground
branch of Marvel stuff. It doesn't even have to end up connected to Battle World or Secret Wars or whatever. It can just remain its own little thing.
Yeah.
And I'd be more than okay with that. I just hope they continue to do something in this vein because I think this was so unique.
Oh, I think that
I enjoy it so much.
I think they have to. And end of the multiverse saga into the next saga, they're going to need a new... Look at how hard it is to even know if there's an Avengers up to this point. Like, they are going to need, like, the Midnight Suns, and they're going to start tackling supernatural threats, along with the other main story being, like, the mutants and their movies and setups, and who knows if we'll get a Channing Tatum Gambit movie. I freaking love Channing Tatum. I love that it's his dream role. Something about him staying in that role bothers me a little bit, but I wouldn't hate it if he stayed as the role. What do you think about that?
I'd be okay with it.
Yeah.
He seemed to be having a lot of fun doing it, and I don't really hold the character particularly like in a special place. That it's fine with me.
He just really
took. If they announced that outside of like what had already happened, I would have been like, cool, if he wants to do that.
Yeah, he stole the show.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun, and I know it meant a lot to him, so I thought that was cool.
Okay, so I'd say this rewatch of Werewolf by Night was my favorite because I knew I was going to be doing an episode with you, 1, and 2. I just finally like kicked back and watched it for what it was. I think I used to have mental blocks. This is why there's big gaps in the show, and sometimes I get mental blocks. And then I'm so lucky to have my friend Dustin come on my show and then help me like break that block in a second because we're just both really hyped to talk about it. And I'm open about that kind of stuff on the show, as you can see, because I just said it. Do you have any final thoughts, Dusty? I think I've asked you that like 7 times.
Hey, nothing wrong with some final thoughts.
Yeah.
I really like this. I hope Marvel makes more things in this vein, even if it's not supernatural, spooky stuff. I just think these special presentations are pretty cool. They kind of get to be their own little dip into whatever they want it to be. There's a lot of flavor to them. And even if they don't do another Werewolf by Night thing, I hope they let someone like this director do something else.
I agree.
Unique in its own little world, and I'd be happy to watch whatever they come up with next. I do hope we see more of Jack and Elsa.
Yeah,
even
me
if
too.
It's a sequel to this. or if they're connected to Midnight Suns down the line, I'm all for it.
I think Midnight Suns is going to be huge. I think it's going to be Avengers level big, and I think they're going to have a lot of characters. I don't see why they wouldn't put them in unless there's not room for them. My final thoughts are this was just a really fun, creative project for Marvel to do. Special to have like a nice Halloween Marvel thing to watch every year. I mean, I know we got Agatha, like you said, which is totally a great Halloween show. Like I'll probably watch it next year at this point. I love that show, and that's where we're going actually next week. Wednesday we have the finale of Agatha All Along, and still deciding if I'm going to put them both in one episode or two separate episodes, only because of the timing of episode 100 and its significance. I gotta see where it lands on. So like, let's say episode 100 lands on a Wednesday when we're usually talking TV shows. We'll probably just do it on that day because it's in sync, episode 100. This is stuff that I'm supposed to be worrying about, not talking about on mic. I'm getting all hyped up for it though. I'd be loving to talk to you.
Sometimes.
I'm always am. I mean, that's kind of like what it's like. I might have to cut a couple things out that I said, but we'll see. I like the free-form conversation we've been having. I only had to pause it a couple times, and Dustin, it's been a pleasure to have you here, man. Thank you for joining
me. This was a lot of fun. You know, Jack might be the werewolf by night, but we're all the Marvel maniacs by night.
Woo! Yeah, there we go. Stay tuned next week for Agatha All Along. Leave us a positive comment or review on our page, whatever platform you're listening on. We have a tip jar in the comments. Never expected, never, always appreciated. I almost said never appreciated. And our new feedback button I'm going to bring up for the 50th time. Hit in our episode description the feedback button. I'm encouraging you to. And let us know what you think about Werewolf by Night, future of Marvel, Secret Wars, anything. And we'll try and feature it on the show. And I think that's all we got today. Dustin, again, you have a great day or week or year. You're going to be back before a year, right, on the show?
Yeah, maybe. We'll see if you're going to.
All right, we'll see. All right, well, until next time, Avengers, disassemble. I should have had you do it. Dustin, do you want to say that?
No. I already said my I'm
leaving that in. I love that.